Salford, less local authorities have absolutely lost their mind. Either they're creating these cash cow schemes in the name of net zero to take your money to help air pollution in countryside areas, which makes no sense, and to fix traffic in quiet areas. So they're causing more traffic and more pollution, but they're making a lot of money. Some of them, including Salford, are still busy taking the knee. So, Salford Council marked the third anniversary of George Floyd, and they said, "May he rest in peace." Look at their faces. Oh, hashtag we remember. That is absolutely adorable. So, the first one, the left hand side, from the left hand side, the first three people, they're very serious, they're very sad. Ooh, anniversary. The guy on the right hand side, he's smiling. Third anniversary of Floyd. Oh, this is fun, isn't it? It's a nice day out. Absolutely embarrassing, but it's not really a surprise. But I mean, this completely got exploded in mainstream and on social media, on Twitter and everything else. But so a lot of local residents who don't really follow social media or this sort of stuff won't see it, but they are addressing their own audience, and it's working for them because they are keeping the woke tards happy in Salford, in Greater Manchester in general, and in the whole of country. Now, we have to hold it to account. Even though it's just a ridiculous gesture, it's a symbol of what's actually going on inside our establishments, from the national government to local authorities and all these regional mayors and devolved administrations. They're all going crazy, and we have to point out what's going on. And we actually have a special guest right now, Nick Buckley, MBE, is going to be joining us from Greater Manchester. Nick is the independent candidate for Greater Manchester Mayor. He's going to be fighting against Andy Burnham next year. So let's go to Nick Buckley and see what he had to say. Okay, now we're joined by Nick Buckley. So, how is the campaign going for mayoralty?
It's going fine. Well, actually, it's going better than I expected. Andy Burnham has already had to answer 2 questions about my policies already live on air, which is great considering I'm a nobody. I only launched a couple of weeks ago, so I'm announcing some policies every couple of months as we go along. But it's going fine at the moment.
So, obviously, before we kick off, let's talk about that photo that we have from Salford. This is the taxpayers' money in action. We are producing local politicians and council officials who are still taking the knee for something that happened in a different country, in a state a few years ago. Even Americans are not really bothering with that. What's going on with this?
So a couple of days ago, Salford Council had the audacity to release a photo of 4 members of staff. I'm presuming they're staff as opposed to councillors. There may be councillors, I don't know. All outside a building owned by Salford Council, all on their knees, one with the Marxist hand in the air, salute. Not celebrating, but marking the anniversary of the death of George Floyd. And it's like, are Black Lives Matter now not discredited in the whole world? Have you not seen about their mansions? And if you're going to get on your knees in Salford, you should be doing it to check the dirt on the streets, because believe me, those streets need cleaning.
But that's an interesting point, because isn't crime still an issue in Greater Manchester in general? Why they're not focusing on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the councils need to be tackling, low-level antisocial behaviour, and the crime needs to be tackled by the police. But the councils still have a big duty around everyday low-level nuisance, kids on off-road bikes, graffiti. But what they'd rather do is get on their knees to a neo-Marxist, discredited organisation and just do some virtue signaling. Look at us, aren't we amazing? And well, no, because you're spending our tax money. Do a better job, then you'll be amazing.
It is fascinating. What's been the reaction so far in the area, whether it's local press or people you talk to? Do people know about it?
Well, it was released on Twitter, and obviously only political people really are on Twitter, so hardly anyone's ever saw it. But the people who saw it are the people they wanted to see it, so it sort of backs up their cause. But when I retweeted it and commented on it, I've had tens of thousands of views now. People commented on it going, what is this about? I mean, councils have a bad enough reputation as it is. Sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, but this type of thing does nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So, tell us about your campaign. What are your priorities as an independent candidate? Obviously, previously you have been a candidate for Reform UK, I believe, or Brexit Party. I can't remember. So, what's going on
Yeah.
with this new campaign?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I stood for mayor with Reform UK because they just launched. And I'd thought to myself, I'm sick of what's going on in Greater Manchester. So I stood for them. I only had 8 weeks to campaign. This time I've given myself a year. So the election's not till the 2nd of March next year. So I've got another 11 months to go, which is great. I'm trying to get some common sense policies. So, I've announced two up to now. So the first one basically is a woman is an adult human female. So that might be a bit strange, me saying that. But in this day and age now, we need politicians who can come out with some common sense, things
Mhm.
that were normal yesterday.
Yeah,
So let's see what the other candidates say to that. Will Andy Burnham actually say the same or agree with? Because he seems to have kept off this topic altogether over the last couple of years.
yeah,
And my big policy at the moment that I've announced is no to net zero. The Mayor's office will not endorse any project that attacks car use, that makes us poorer, or restricts our movement. The Mayor, if elected, will not be endorsing those sort of projects. And I've got some others in the pipeline as well, which I'm sure you'll love.
yeah. Well, on the issue of net zero and everything else, actually, this channel, I'm going to be going around the country and visiting certain areas that has issues with low traffic neighborhoods and ULEZ and clean air zones and this and that. And one of them will be Greater Manchester. So I'm going to come up here to report from there. So maybe you can also get involved. You
Yeah,
know the area.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in Greater Manchester, we've got a postponed clean air zone at the moment.
Mm.
So Andy Burnham worked on it for 2 years, decided he was going to cover the whole of Greater Manchester and spent hundreds of millions on it. And then just when he was about to launch it, the people found out and went, no, I don't think so. He lost his bottle and
Yeah.
then he sent it back for review to government who have stalled it. And now we're in limbo. He spent hundreds of millions of pounds on this of our taxpayers' money,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what's going on. But if I'm elected day one, regardless of where we are on the clean air zone, it gets scrapped day one.
Also, I don't think you can call it a zone when it covers the whole of the Greater Manchester. It's like Greater London. It's a city. It's not a zone.
Yeah. And for people who don't know Greater Manchester, once you get out of the city centre and
Yeah.
a couple of miles out that, you have green fields, you have countryside, you have fields full of sheep and
There's
cows,
no
and
pollution.
we've got clean air zones in the countryside, all
Isn't
to
it?
make some money for the mayor's office so he can spend it on what he wants to spend it on. It's a tax.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, keep up the good fight, because we need some sort of common sense. And of course, this channel and other independent media outlets will be reporting and promoting that campaign as we get closer, because I don't think we're going to hear much from the mainstream media on these sort of issues. Thank you, Nick, for coming on the show. Guys,
Thank you.
subscribe to the channel. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.